In the world of freeze drying, there's a new kid on the block, and I'm pretty impressed. Hey, Provident Preppers, I'm Jonathan, and today we're here with Corey from Blue Alpine. Our introduction to each other started a few months ago when one of our audience asked what we thought about the Blue Alpine, and I'd heard of it, but we didn't know much about it, so we reached out. And Corey, tell us about what you're doing here.
So at Blue Alpine, we wanted to create a freeze dryer that had more user-friendly aspects to it. We are kind of entrepreneurs through and through. I have two brothers that are in the company with me. A couple of years ago, we said, hey, we looked at freeze dryers, said, hey, this is a good idea. We should try and get into this. And luckily, they're the intelligent ones. I am not. I am a firefighter paramedic by trade. They're both engineers and incredibly intelligent. Anyways, yeah, we looked at the freeze dryer and we said, hey, I think we can design this. So over the course of several years, we designed one, and that's what brings us to this. We're just trying to make the best freeze dryer we can.
So Corey brought this down to us and said, give it a try, and you can see that we have been giving it a try. We've been putting it through its paces, and so far we have just loved it. It's worked out really well. One thing that I really like is they have these really super nice trays here. This is just a half sheet cooking tray with these silicone liners and the tapered edge. It really is very nice. Tell us more about why you wanted to go with this tray.
So early on, we were talking to customers and we were debating between a standard tray versus a custom tray. So a custom tray would be, just a random size that like we just picked that worked well. But in talking with customers, we said, hey, everyone has cookie sheets. Like these are standard cookie sheets. It's a half sheet in the restaurant industry. We kind of took a poll and we said, hey, like, what would you guys prefer? Would you prefer something that you have already like in your house, or do you want something custom? And almost unanimously, people said, hey, we want something that's just standard. Part of our MO as a company is we want to make everything just user-friendly. Like we don't care if people buy pans from us. We appreciate it, but we don't care if people buy pans from us. Same thing with like the vacuum pump. Like we're trying to make everything just like standard fittings, standard trays, like more user-friendly, easy to work on. So anyways, that's kind of our MO as a company.
One of the other things I've noticed about this machine is you have this thing cooling down super fast. I'm a numbers guy, so I come out and look at this, after like 20 or 30 minutes, and we're already way below zero. And I'm thinking, this is wild, because that's not my experience. Is it takes a very, very long time for everything to cool down and to get frozen. And what did you do to make that happen?
Yeah, so the biggest portion when it comes to refrigeration and like how fast a freeze dryer can freeze dry is the refrigeration that's underneath of it. So under here we have twice the size of the refrigeration as we do in our medium. So this one has a 1/2 horsepower compressor with the biggest piston that we could fit in it. So it has a ton of, it's just moving a ton of refrigerant. And because we're moving so much refrigerant, we're able to cool things like super fast.
And I noticed there's a fan in the back.
Yep.
And I had that thought months ago, probably a couple of years ago. It's like if there was a fan in there, everything would thaw out quicker and it would cool down faster, and you did it.
And kind of like we just saw, we just ended a cycle, or I guess you guys just ended the cycle, but in, I don't know, maybe like 20 minutes we were able to pull out the ice, and or I don't know how fast it was, but it was a lot faster than normal because we've got that fan running in the back. So
that to me was just kind of mind-blowing. The other thing that I thought was really unique about this, and I really love, is your recipes. And not just having, so you can push the recipes and you can choose what it is you're doing, but then you can also tweak those recipes. And like we just did some canned peaches. And so we called Corey and said, how do we do this? And he told us how to set the pressure and the temperature. And so it's very user-friendly, something that people can just do themselves once they get to understand it. And they go, okay, I want a little lower pressure or a higher pressure or lower temperature, and all that's user adjustable. Tell us a little more about how you ended up going that route, but I think it's awesome.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of controls think of like gas pedals or steering wheels when it comes to freeze drying. You've really got like temperature and pressure. Those are really kind of the only two things that you can very easily adjust. So kind of going back to our MO as a company, we wanted everything be user-friendly, and we wanted to give as many controls to the user as possible, because that controlling pressure really is something that like a scientific machine is able to do as well, or a commercial machine is able to do, not something that we've really seen on home freeze dryers. Pressure, we're able to essentially like, it kind of acts as like the throttle for the cycle. So if you want to get something done super fast, you can turn up the pressure. You can only do that on really hearty foods like soup or meat, like lasagna, things like that, would be a hearty food. You don't want to run super fast on like really delicate things like pineapple and grapes and things like that. But if you're running meat, I mean, yeah, you can turn up the pressure and like it'll go super fast. So anyways, that was just like another control that we wanted to give to the users. And then with recipes, I wish we had more room on the computer to do more recipes. Unfortunately, on this computer, we don't have a whole lot of extra space for more pages.
Okay, so one thing that's big and popular, and especially with our grandkids, is candy. Tell us about your candy mode.
Yeah, so our candy mode is kind of unique as far as like freeze dryers goes. So most freeze dryers only go to 150 degrees. We go to 165. It's only 15 degrees difference, but it makes a huge difference. So a lot of our candy recipes, you don't have to like pre-warm them. So like lemon heads, for example, are pretty hard to do without pre-warming in the oven. But because we go to 165 degrees, you can actually pop lemon heads and like Starburst and things like that without having to put them in the oven. It's just a one-stop, just all in the machine. But with the candy recipe, you have like a pre-warm setting as well. And that pre-warm setting, when you're able to go to 165, it really loosens up the candy, and once you pull vacuum, it just pops. So anyways, it's and it gets done really fast. It's kind of a full send cycle. It's not technically freeze drying, it's actually vacuum drying. But yeah, our candy mode, it takes anywhere from like 2 to 4 hours. 4 hours is about the longest usually. But anyways, pretty fun to do candy. I like it.
Yeah, me too, but I don't eat much anymore, but the grandkids do, so that's a lot of fun. Now, me being an engineer, I love the fact that people tinker with things and change things and improve things, and you seem to be kind of the poster child of that whole process of looking out there and saying, okay, what can we change? What can we fix? What can we do differently and make it just a little bit better? What's on the horizon? What's coming that is exciting?
So we have several 3D printers. I'm sure that you have done a lot of work with those, but we've been 3D printing a ton of stuff. So with our oil mist filter, we're actually 3D printing and testing different medias and stuff like that. So we bought like a $500 oil mist filter that's like a scientific filter. I'm like, I think we can make this for cheaper. So anyways, so that was one cool thing that we're working on, is like a really, really nice oil mist filter. We're also working on it's like an active oil filtration system. So it would use like a marine grade oil filter, for filtering out water on like a boat, and it would pump it through continuously through your pump. So it would, instead of changing your pump oil, you could just change your filter on like an oil filter. Anyways, so that one will be pretty cool. We we've printed out a few housings and kind of like, anyways, we made 2 or 3 of those machines that we're testing currently. We are getting new pumps, which we're really excited about. The new pumps are made by a company that's all they do. They only make vacuum pumps. So anyways, they came super highly recommended, and they've been awesome to work with.
This has been super simple. Tell us about your approach to, so that people will get it and they'll actually get it out and use it.
Yeah, so freeze drying, it can be a little bit intimidating, but it shouldn't be. It's actually a pretty simple process. People think like, oh, there's pressure involved and it's going to be weird. For the most part, just put the food in, tell it to go, and it knows what to do. It's not gonna lead you astray. If you do anything wrong, like leave a valve open or something like that, it'll alarm and it'll tell you, hey, you need to go close this valve. So it's actually pretty simple. For the most part, it acts a lot like an oven, but it is an oven that has vacuum. That's the only thing that's weird about it. But if you think of it like an oven, that it's like, hey, you just put it in and it needs to dry for a certain amount of time, or maybe a dehydrator. Like, you could think of it kind of like a dehydrator. It's a lot more technical than a dehydrator, but at the same time, it is kind of that simple. That's, hey, you put the food in, dry it, and it's going to get the food dry.
All right, so Corey, just walk us through this. How somebody's going to put their food in and get it done.
So if I'm going to freeze dry for the first time, or just in general, what I do is I start with taking the trays and just filling them up with food. So you take these in the kitchen, you cut your, if you're doing bananas, you cut up your bananas, you lay them all out, and then you can just throw them right in the freeze dryer. You can freeze them beforehand. If you don't feel like it, you can just throw them right in. It'll do the freezing for you. But yeah, so you cut up bananas, cook some chicken, cut up some chicken, whatever you want to freeze dry, throw it in, and then you got to close this door. And then this valve needs closed as well. So if you leave this valve open, like I said, it'll tell you like, hey, you left the valve open or something, but this needs to be closed. And then from there, let's say we're doing fruit like bananas or apples. You just go here to recipes, hit fruit. It'll tell you, hey, this is the recipe that you're using. And then you just click continue. And then it'll remind you, hey, close the door, close the valve. And you press go. And then refrigeration will kick on. You can kind of probably hear it in the background, but once it gets done freezing, it'll automatically kick into the dry cycle. So from this point, the machine will do everything on its own. As long as there's food in there, it'll get the food dry. Once the cycle gets done, it will actually continue to freeze dry, which is kind of a cool feature. So what we do is we drop the temperature on the pads to 80% of what they were, and then we actually keep it under vacuum. So on the cycle complete page, the vacuum pump will actually toggle on and off. It'll keep it under vacuum. That's a huge advantage because if the food for some reason isn't done and it gets done, the cycle times out at like 2 in the morning, it's actually still freeze drying until you come and check it later on. So kind of a nuanced thing, but it's really handy for, if the food isn't quite done, it'll get it the rest of the way there on its own. And then once the food's done, all you do is, this will be under vacuum. So it'll be on a cycle complete page. You want to check the food before you take it all out. So what you do is you come here. This will be under vacuum. You got to open this up and you'll hear the air rush back in. Once it's complete, you want to check everything. So you'll pull it out. And what I like to do, there's tons of ways of doing this, but what I like to do is I'll just take some of the biggest chunks and I'll break them in half and just kind of feel them against my lip. If I feel any coldness at all, then it's not done. There's still ice there, and you'll register that ice as just coldness in the food. So if I check a few pieces and I check a few trays, hey, the food's done, then what I'll do is I will go and take this and dump it into a bag so you can roll this up. And these edges make it really nice to roll and put it into a bag. So you dump all the food into a bag, like a Mylar bag or mason jars like this. And then you want to vacuum seal those jars, or if you're using bags, you want to put oxygen absorbers in the bags. Just that way there's no oxygen left in there. Oxygen will spoil, it'll spoil food. Yeah. So from there, the only thing left to do is just hit defrost. So, and I don't have it here, but on the home or on the cycle complete page, it'll have a defrost button here in the middle. You just defrost it and it'll turn on the fan, turn on the heat pads again. Again, you do want to make sure that all your food is out before you defrost it. And then after you get the food done, food's out, food's packaged, you do have water that's left over here on the edge, and that needs to drain somewhere. So this is another thing that's kind of cool about our machine, is that our drain valve is at the end of the hose. So unless you've got your hand underwater, there's no chance of sucking water back into the hose. Anyways, you can just kind of hook it there on the edge, or just drain it in. But either way, you just drain it into a bucket and just throw the water out afterwards.
We've mentioned a couple of times about the customer ease and friendliness, the way you've tried to build this around the customer. Finish up by just telling us what drives all of that and why it's important to you.
Yeah, so we kind of follow Toyota's method of engineering of quality, then delivery, then cost. And our philosophy is, if we can figure out quality first, then, it makes customer service a ton easier. And then cost will be cost. Everything else that was important came first. So when it comes to quality, that's kind of part of our customer service philosophy, I guess. Part of that is also just making it easy for the customer to work on. So everything is modular. That's kind of our first thing, is all these panels come off. Every now and then what we do is when we ship them, we put them on a skid, and it doesn't happen very often, but every now and then we'll get a forklift driver that is, with our freight company. We've never staffed a machine, but sometimes when they're on the road, a forklift driver will staff the machine. And having modular panels like this, it's 8 bolts and you can replace the panel. It's you don't need a whole new machine because it's literally just one panel got damaged. We've done that, I think, 2 or 3 times in a couple thousand machines. But so anyway, so that's a really cool feature, just having everything modular. The top panel is where all the electronics sit. You pull off the top panel and you can get access to all the electronics. Kind of just making them with the user in mind, and even the electronics, for example, they, instead of having a bunch of screws to unscrew wires, it's literally just little latches. You just undo the latch and you can take out the electronics. So if electronics ever go bad, that's super easy to do. And again, with trays and mats, like we try to go with standard, standard size with our vacuum pumps. So the industry standard for vacuum pumps, the fitting is kind of a specific fitting. Instead of deviating from the industry standard, we've just kept it an industry standard. So it's like literally any vacuum pump can work on our machine. Just little things like that, that it's like, we're just trying to, again, just keep the customer in mind that it's like we want them to be easy to work on, and you don't have to buy our parts, you can buy other parts if you'd like.
Now, Corey, you've offered to give our audience a little bit of a discount. Tell us how they would get that discount.
So we don't have a whole lot of distributors right now. So the best place to find us is just on our website. It's just bluealpinefreezedryers.com. And then the coupon code is Provident after your channel. So anyways, yeah, use that and it's a 5% discount and it'll get you a couple $100 back. So with our warranty, we do a 1 year of use warranty and then 3 years of use on the refrigeration itself. So it's a 1 year of use for any component, and then it's a 3 years of use for the refrigeration. And we wanted to do like a year of use instead of just like 12 calendar months, because a lot of times what'll happen, and this happens with a lot of different companies, but you'll have a problem at say 11 months, and then it takes a while to get a hold of customer service. Things kind of get pushed down the road, and you're at 12-month mark, and now it's out of warranty. With us, we wanted to get away from that completely. So we said, hey, like if it's down, for example, if you had a refrigeration problem and you had to ship it back to us, if it's gone for a couple weeks, it's not going to be part of that couple weeks that it's gone is not part of the warranty. What we do is we pause the warranty once we notice the problem, and then we get it. We start that warranty back up, once we've either returned the machine or get the machine functioning again. So that's just something that we have really tried to kind of differentiate ourselves as well, that we kind of hold ourselves accountable that way. I think I told you guys, but I used to be a firefighter in a previous life. When you're a firefighter, you just own your mistakes. And that's kind of our way of like, hey, we're gonna own our mistakes. We're gonna try and make them as good as we can. So another thing with being a small company, I still am on the phone with customers. I'm still getting back to emails. Our philosophy is that we want to make the best machines, and part of that is if I'm one of the owners of this company, and it's not just me, like all 3 of the owners are getting on the phone with customers. If we find issues, we'll take that right back to the manufacturing line and fix the issue immediately. Usually that turnaround time is like a day, a couple days. Sometimes if it's an engineering problem, it can take a few months, but in general, we want to make the best machines, and part of that is the owners, the ones who are designing the machines, are the ones fielding customer calls. Any problems that come up with the machines, we're the ones helping solve them. So if you do have questions, feel free to reach out. There's a good chance you can actually get a hold of me on the phone or on email.
Thanks again, Corey, for being here. And we've really enjoyed using this machine. This has been fun, and it's been very refreshing that anytime we have a question, we just call Corey. We've had a couple of little issues that we didn't understand, but very simple things that, oh yeah, okay. And we got back on the road. Everything has just gone really well. We've enjoyed it. And again, thank you. And now for the question of the day. What other questions do you have for Corey about Blue Alpine or about freeze drying? Share with us. And thanks for being part of the solution.